corporate America is lying to you. They took your exhaustion, something real, something physiological, and they rebranded it as a character flaw. They called it a work ethic problem. They called it laziness. They called it quiet quitting. And while they were busy putting a label on you, they were quietly hiding the fact that they've literally burned out your brain's stress response for profit. Let me be very direct with you right now. You are not lazy. You're not disengaged. You're not a quitter. You are physiologically broken by a system designed to help you survive a short-term threat, a predator, a famine, a physical danger, and then has the audacity to blame you for running out of fuel. That is disgusting. And today, I'm going to prove it to you with biology. Because the moment you understand what is actually happening inside your body, everything changes. Your identity changes. Your recovery changes. And the 4-minute protocol I'm going to give you at the end of this episode, it can begin shifting your biology today. So stay with me, because we don't just sit with problems here. We take the breath so we can grow the life. The real meaning behind the disengagement trend. Let me paint a picture for you. It is 9:03 a.m. on a Tuesday. Someone, maybe it's you, maybe it's someone you know, opens their laptop, joins the morning stand-up, nods at the right moments, types exactly what is expected, does the minimum required to not get flagged, and then at 5 p.m. sharp, closes the laptop, doesn't check Slack, doesn't answer the 6:47 p.m. email, just disconnects. The media looked at that person and said, they don't care anymore. They gave up. The HR departments looked at that person and said, engagement problem, culture problem, attitude problem. A whole industry of motivational speakers looked at that person and said, you need to find your why, reignite your passion, try harder. And do you know what every single one of those diagnoses had in common? They all looked at the symptom and called it the disease. Because here is what neuroscience actually tells us about that exact moment. 9:03 a.m., laptop open, eyes glazed, doing the minimum. That is not a person who stopped caring. That is a nervous system in functional freeze. There's a specific state your body enters when chronic stress overwhelms its capacity to cope. It is not laziness. It is not apathy. It is your biology with billions of years of evolutionary programming behind it, deciding that the safest thing it can do right now is to conserve every last drop of metabolic energy and shut down non-essential functions. Creativity? Non-essential. Shut down. Motivation? Non-essential. Shut down. Emotional availability? Non-essential. Shut down. The body is not failing you. The body is protecting you. The problem is that the system designed to help you survive a short-term threat, a predator, a famine, a physical danger, is now being triggered by a performance review, by a passive-aggressive Slack message, by the anxiety of knowing you have 47 unread emails and another Zoom call in 12 minutes. And when that system fires constantly, with no real off-ramp, the brain does what it was designed to do when threat becomes permanent. It stops fighting, it stops fleeing, it freezes. That right there is the biology of what people are calling quiet quitting. And once you see it this way, you cannot unsee it. The productivity gurus selling you morning routines and cold plunges don't want you to see it this way, because if you understand it's a physiological injury, you stop blaming yourself and you start demanding a different conversation entirely. The biology of the freeze response. Let me walk you through exactly what happens inside your body, because this part matters. Your nervous system operates across a spectrum. On one end, you have what most people know, fight or flight, high arousal, adrenaline flooding the bloodstream, heart rate up, pupils dilated. Your body is mobilizing every resource it has to deal with an immediate threat. On the other end, and this is the one nobody talks about, is what the brilliant researcher Dr. Stephen Porges called the dorsal vagal state. This is the oldest part of your nervous system, evolutionarily speaking. It's the same circuit that causes a possum to play dead, and in human beings, it activates when the nervous system concludes that fighting and fleeing are both impossible, and that the only way to survive is to go still. This is functional freeze, and it looks from the outside almost exactly like quiet quitting. Brain fog? That is your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for motivation, creativity, and planning, going offline to conserve energy. Emotional detachment? That is your brain numbing its own emotional pain signals because sustained cortisol exposure literally begins to damage the neuroarchitecture of emotional regulation. The inability to care about a project that used to excite you, that is a survival signal, not a character flaw. Here is something I want you to actually sit with for a moment. When an animal in the wild goes into freeze, it is not choosing to be lazy. It is surviving. And when the threat passes, the animal literally physically shakes his body to discharge the stored stress energy and return to baseline. Human beings have lost that. We don't shake it off. We go home, pour a drink, scroll for 2 hours, and wake up the next morning still carrying all of it. And then we do it again, and again, and again, until one day the body simply cannot climb back to baseline anymore. That is clinical burnout, and it is not a mindset problem. It is a biological state that requires a biological intervention. So when someone tells you just push through it or you need better discipline, understand what they're actually saying. They're telling a person with a broken leg to run faster. It doesn't work, and more importantly, it makes the injury worse. Why modern work culture breaks the nervous system. Here is the 2026 reality. The human nervous system was never designed for the world we are currently living in. It was built for a world where threats were short, where you would encounter danger, a predator, a rival, deal with it, and then return to a genuine state of rest and safety. The nervous system could reset. It had time. But what we have now is something entirely different. We have a state of permanent low-grade threat that never turns off. Your phone buzzes at 11 p.m. with a work notification. Your amygdala, the brain's threat detection center, registers that buzz. Not dramatically, not consciously, but it registers it as something requires attention. I am not safe to fully rest yet. Your inbox has 200 unread messages. Your amygdala is quietly running background calculations every hour. There's unfinished business. There are unresolved threats. Your manager micromanages every deliverable. Your amygdala encodes that as, I am not trusted. My position is unstable. I am at risk. None of these triggers are dramatic. None of them would qualify as a real threat in the evolutionary sense, but your nervous system cannot tell the difference between a performance improvement plan and a predator at the edge of the forest.
It just knows threat is present. Respond. And when threat is always present, when the system is always responding, there is no recovery window. The cortisol never fully clears. The nervous system never fully down-regulates. The body never gets the signal that it is genuinely safe. And here is the particularly cruel irony. Most people's first response to this feeling is to take a vacation, and the vacation doesn't work. Because you spent the first 2 days catching up on work from your phone, and the day before you left, you worked 15 hours straight to get ahead of things. And somewhere around day 3, the moment your body finally exhales, you get sick. Because that is what depletion looks like. The moment you stop running, the biological debt comes due all at once. A 1-week vacation cannot undo 2 years of chronic dorsal vagal dysregulation. It cannot repair the cortisol damage to your hippocampus. It cannot rebuild the neural pathways your prefrontal cortex needs to generate motivation and creative energy. What it can do is give you just enough of a taste of what it feels like to be human again before you walk back into the exact same system that broke you in the first place. We need something different. We need something that works inside the environment that is hurting us, and I want to give that to you right now. The 4-minute reset protocol. What I'm about to walk you through is not a wellness trend. This is not a sponsored segment about a meditation app. This is applied neuroscience. These are interventions that have direct, measurable effects on the autonomic nervous system, meaning they physically change the state your body is in. Here is the framework, and you can do every single step of it at your desk without anyone knowing what you are doing. Minute 1. Neural flossing. This is where we begin to break the freeze. When your body is in a dorsal vagal state, movement is the fastest way out. Not exercise, movement. Small, deliberate movement that reminds your nervous system that you are capable of mobilizing, that you are not actually immobilized, that there is no predator. Here's what you do. Roll your shoulders backward 5 times, slowly. Then rotate your head side to side. Not fast, not aggressive, just slowly, like you're tracing a gentle arc. Now look to your far left, as far as your eyes will comfortably go, and hold for 10 seconds. Then far right, 10 seconds. This specific eye movement activates the superior colliculus, a structure in the brainstem that is directly linked to threat assessment. When your eyes scan a horizon and find nothing dangerous, your nervous system receives a measurable signal. The environment is safe. That signal begins to move you out of freeze. Minute 2. Box breathing. Now that you've started to mobilize the body, we regulate the signal going to the brain. Your breath is the only part of your autonomic nervous system that you can consciously control, and that makes it the most powerful tool you have. Box breathing. Inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4, exhale for 4, hold for 4. Repeat for 60 seconds. Here is the biology of why this works. A slow, deliberate exhale activates the vagus nerve, the main highway of your parasympathetic nervous system. The vagus nerve is what tells your heart to slow down, your digestion to restart, your body to stop producing cortisol. Every slow exhale is, quite literally, a message from your body to your brain. The danger has passed. You can stand down. Minute 3. Temperature contrast. If you have access to cold water, a bathroom sink, a cold glass, this minute changes everything. Splash cold water on the back of your neck, your wrists, or your face, or simply hold a cold object in your hands for 30 to 45 seconds. Cold exposure activates the mammalian dive reflex, heart rate slows, the parasympathetic system surges, and perhaps most importantly, it interrupts the rumination cycle. It is physically impossible to spiral into anxious thought while your body is processing cold stimulus. The nervous system is forced to be present. 30 seconds of cold water to the back of the neck can shift measurable heart rate variability in under a minute. Minute 4. Intentional grounding. Now we give the thinking brain something concrete to reorient around. Name 5 things you can physically see. Name 4 things you can physically touch and actually touch them. Take 1 long breath in and 1 long breath out. This exercise recruits the prefrontal cortex back online. It pulls processing resources away from the threat detection circuits of the amygdala and re-engages the part of you that plans, reasons, and creates. You are not meditating. You are physically rerouting neural traffic. 4 minutes, that is all this takes. And the most important thing I can tell you about these 4 minutes, the effects compound. Each time you move through this protocol, you are training your nervous system to find the exit ramp faster. You are building what neuroscientists call vagal tone, the flexibility of your nervous system to shift between states. The first time you do this, it might feel like a small thing. By the 50th time, your body will begin to know this pathway automatically. Building long-term neural resilience. A 4-minute protocol is a lifeline, but I want to give you more than a lifeline. I want to give you a different architecture for how you move through your days. Because the goal is not just to survive the system. The goal is to build a nervous system strong enough that the system no longer has the same hold on you. That is what neural resilience means. Here is how you build it practically, starting this week. Anchor your protocol to existing moments. The single biggest mistake people make with new habits is treating them as separate events that require willpower to initiate. Remove the willpower equation entirely. Attach your 4-minute reset to something that already happens. Right before your first meeting of the day, right after lunch, the moment you close your laptop. When the reset becomes a response to a reliable trigger rather than a decision you have to make fresh every time, your adherence rate goes from inconsistent to near automatic.
create genuine environmental signals of safety. Your nervous system is constantly scanning your environment for cues. Am I safe here? Not just cognitively, but literally, physically, physiologically. This means the physical space you work in matters more than people acknowledge. Natural light, a plant, a window, manageable auditory input, even the temperature of the room. These are not luxury preferences, they are neurological interventions. They are signals your body uses to calibrate whether it needs to be on high alert or whether it can afford to lower its defenses. If you cannot control your full work environment, control the inputs you can. Noise-canceling headphones, a desk plant, warm rather than cold overhead lighting. These are not small things. They are neurological interventions. Reframe your identity around this process. This is perhaps the most important thing I will say today. Right now, millions of people are walking around carrying the label, quiet quitter.
They absorbed it. They internalized it. They are treating it as a description of who they are, rather than a description of what their nervous system is doing to survive an unsustainable situation. I want to offer you a different identity. You are someone who is actively healing their biology. You are someone who learned, perhaps too late and through too much pain, that the body has limits, and who is now consciously, deliberately, 1 4-minute reset at a time, reclaiming the neurological capacity that chronic stress stole from you. That is not weakness. That is the most sophisticated and self-respecting thing a human being can do. The breath you take right now is not passive. It is an act of biology. It is a choice to signal safety to every cell in your body. That is why we say what we say on this channel. We take the breath so we can grow the life. And subscribe, not metaphorically, literally, scientifically. The breath is the mechanism, the growth is the outcome, and you, right now, wherever you are, have everything you need to begin. Let me leave you with something specific before you close this video. Tonight, not tomorrow, not next week, try the 4-minute reset once before you do anything else after work, before the TV, before the scroll, before the drink. 4 minutes of shoulder rolls, box breathing, cold water, and grounding. And notice not how dramatically different you feel, but notice the direction of the shift, because direction is everything at the beginning of recovery. If this episode shifted something for you, share it with one person who needs to hear it, not because of the channel numbers, but because there is someone in your life right now who is calling themselves a failure when they are actually physiologically depleted, and they deserve to know the difference. If you want to go further, to understand the full neuroscience of workplace stress, how to rebuild your vagal tone over 30 days, and how to have the conversation with your employer about sustainable expectations, I have linked the next episode directly below this one. It picks up exactly where we left off. You are not broken, you are depleted, and there is a profound difference between those two things. Take the breath, grow the life. I'll see you in the next one.